First, I want to say peace to everybody out there, right? Shalom, Islam, whatever you like to say, peace, right? I only say peace because I speak English. I don't speak any other languages. So we can say all those other things, but it doesn't really matter. Tupac and Malcolm X. There's conflicting reports on these two brothers. There's conflicting reports on them two brothers. If you was to go 2,000 years into the future and they was to look at historical reports on these two men, they would say one was a pimp and one was a rapist. Right? They have documented court cases, even though they, one went to prison and he served his sentence out and finished that, and the other beat his case. There's still conflicting reports because there is news outlets that were saying Tupac was a rapist. Right? These are the same things that happened to the prophets 2,000, 3,000, hundreds of years ago. There's conflicting reports on these men. And what the scriptures do is it gives you both sides of these men because it doesn't want you to look at them as superior or above you. Because we all can do it. This is one of the main things Christ was saying when he said in the regenerations, you would do more things or better things than I do. Right? If you read, just like Zion Lex brought out, if you read the Talmud, where the Jewish people are talking about Christ, there's conflicting reports on who Christ was due to their understanding or our understanding. It might be our book and they just took it because it's supposed to be the oral confessions or the oral reports of Israel. The Muslims have that. They're called the Hadith. So why wouldn't Israel have that if Muhammad was following after the Jews or the Israelites? So we have to start thinking about these things logically. If we're not thinking about these things logically, we're missing the full story. This is why the Hermetic principles and the books of Thoth, he explores the ideas of polarity and correspondence, right? God says that the Israelites will be as the sand of the sea or as the stars of the heaven, unnumerable, uncountable, right? Also, in the law of correspondence, is as above, so below. Whatever the above shows, so shall the below be. Right? Why do you think that they chased after the star that was moving in the sky? Because it was a sign of the Messiah coming. As above, so below. There's Hermetic principles throughout the Bible. But because we, I give a lot of the camps, a lot of the Israelites their due respect because they were killing. They were killing anybody that were against the corporate structure. Those that came out speaking against Europeans. They killed them. Look at Dr. York. Look at Yahweh bin Yahweh. Look at Clarence X. I would say Farrakhan. I really don't know too much about Elijah Muhammad and Farad Muhammad other than they left the Moorish Science Temple where Noble Drew Ali was teaching. And I even question Noble Drew Ali because it is known about William Sanders, which was a known Israelite teacher in the late 1800s, early 1900s in New Jersey, where Noble Drew Ali started the first temple. So I when it comes to the prophets, I always give them a grain of salt because I understand there is always going to be conflicting things about who the prophet was and what they have done. We all look at, Tupac as a prophet from the scriptures or the music that he put forth. But what was his main motive? What would he be like today? We don't know, because they killed him. They didn't want a black Messiah. Meaning, we have many. Moses was a Messiah. Say he wasn't. Say he wasn't. Moses was a Messiah, a well-learned man in Egypt. He says, another man shall come like me. In Deuteronomy, another man shall come like me, doing the same things I'm doing. Does that mean he's going to be a God? Of course he's a God. We're all gods. He's a brethren. He's like us. He's a son of God, like we all are sons of God. Those that do their due diligence and study to understand what the Most High is really trying to convey. But there's conflicting reports about Tupac and Malcolm X. In 2,000 years, they're going to be like, look, they have newspapers saying Tupac was a rapist. How can you follow this guy? How can you big him up? How can they have paintings about this guy? Same thing they do with Christ. Because he was against the corporate or the system that upheld their oppression. So I think it's important that Israelites question the leaders, Nathaniel, Alazar, Hashar, Elder Rakar. Questioning them doesn't mean I don't think that these brothers are great. Questioning them doesn't mean I don't think that these brothers are doing something 100% incorrect. But we're in a time where technology is moving upon us rapidly. Information is readily abundant upon the internet. You could Google whatever you want. We're finding out that money ain't really money, so nobody has ever been paid. They use the Black Law Dictionary in America. In there it tells you money can only be gold and silver. So what is these paper things that we're using? We're in the precipice of another change. So questioning these leaders about their stance on certain particular things, because I don't believe Jesus is coming back. So for us to keep on harping on Jesus and waiting on Jesus is the wrong move for a nation. It keeps us stagnant. It keeps us not moving the waters. Israel was always a disruptor. Don't you read in the scriptures how Israel was always disrupting? Don't you read that? Israel was always disrupting things. Egypt, Babylon. Where did Jonah go? They made a day for fasting for all animals, people, because of Jonah disrupting. What are we disrupting? Christ disrupted things. I know most people don't want to talk about Muhammad, but Muhammad disrupted things. We're not supposed to be continuing in the path of oppression. We're supposed to uplift one another to the next level, disrupting the oppressor, showing the oppressor why we're great, why the Lord deals with us. We're stardust, baby. That's what Thoth calls us. Stardust. We're stardust mixed with the earth. Not everybody gets that opportunity to say that they are. Not everybody. We could go and look at what Esau got. We all know it's pure jealousy of why he's doing these things. We get conflicting reports, man, from a lot of the leaders. We got to bring them to the table, man. How do we bring them to the table? I don't know. I'm not, another brother said to me that I want to be seen of men. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to be seen of men. I want change. And if change is talking about the issues that we have where, you know, our kids are going to the European schools, not learning nothing, and then we take them one day a week to the temple or classes to learn about themselves, instead of saying, okay, what is the positions for the women? Should they not teach the children? Should we not use the temples 5 days a week to bring the children in there and learn? They can learn science. They can learn geometry. They can learn math. Our women are wise enough to teach these things. If we're out on the street and fighting, shouldn't we have our women training up warriors? Up until a certain age, and then, men can take the reins or whatever the case may be. Should not Israel have a committee of brothers that come together and talk about how they're gonna tackle the disparaging things that's happening to the nation? Should we not talk about these things? Should I not question these things? Oh, because I don't have money, I don't have a following, I'm not a leader, I shouldn't question anything until I become one. So that means I can't question the president. If I was a United States citizen, which we all know African Americans aren't. So as an individual, I can't go to a town hall and question the mayor because I'm not doing nothing. I'm not a mayor. I'm not a leader. I can't question them. You see the logic behind that dumbass shit? Those people that do that, they most likely agents. Or they're so deep down in their hate that they don't even understand what they're saying. They don't understand what they're saying. But we at the point, man, like, look at it. We have prophets in our own time period. Name a European prophet. Name an Indian prophet. Name a Chinese prophet in the last 100 years. But we got many. We got many. You could say Nipsey. You could say Tupac. You could say Malcolm. You could say Martin. You could say Marcus Garvey. You could even say Bob Marley. Even if you say, oh, his father's a European, but he was murdered for trying to help us. You could say Huey. You could say Noble Drew Ali. Name a European one. Name a Chinese one. Name one. Name an African from South Africa. Name them. We're the only ones with prophets. The shit goes over our head like a mug, dude. Because we only stay in these 60, in these 80 books. We don't read anything outside of it. We only corroborate what we're reading in these 80 books. We don't go... Listen, when we left Egypt, we took the book of Thoth. We took the Dead Sea, the scrolls, the books that were there. Because it was given to them by our forefathers, the Sumerians. Rituals. High holy days. I've talked about this already. Why are we playing like we're not connected to mankind? Like everything that is dealt with in mankind comes from a particular set of group of people. Why do we play like that? You think that the Egyptians really wrote down something that was of significance? No, we did all that. So we can't question our leaders, right? We can't put the fire to their ass to make them do something different than what they've been doing for the last 50 years. Now, Ariana's not a bad dude. See, this is the thing about me, right? Tazadakia, I came from that group with Tazadakia, the so-called great comforter that those people in there still believe in, which is indicted on tax evasion, which we're not even supposed to be. Anyway, I came from that group. But without Tazadakia, I would never have known any scriptures. Without that group, I would never have known any scriptures. So why would I bite the hand that had fed me? Obviously, that's where the Lord had wanted me to learn. If he wanted me to learn under ICPK, I would have been under them. If he wanted me to be with GOCC, I would have been under them. If he wanted me to learn from AOC, HOI, Sakari, any other group, I would have been under them. My life path is my life path. I'm not going to talk bad about anybody that brought me the information or the knowledge to be who I am today. Even more, C. Freeman L., Taj Tariq, Abdullah Bey, Jamal Abdullah Bey. Like, why would I talk bad about these brothers when they brought me knowledge through the internet? Even Brother Panic on occult lectures. I watch it all. Like, we have to understand that it all comes from the stardust, the ones that come from heaven to the earth, the Anunnaki that they're talking about that are disappeared. Nah, we still here, homie. We just forgot who we was. We forgot who we was. We steady having prophets. Steady having prophets. I even go as far to say, because I know a lot of people don't know this, I would go as far as to say Muhammad was an Israelite too. And he was only dealing with Israelites. But because, the Catholic Church distorted how Islam was started or where it came from, we don't know that he was actually came from a priest tribe. So when you say he comes from a priest tribe, now it starts to break down. Okay, whoa. His knowledge had to come from somewhere other than Gabriel. Who was this Gabriel? There's occult books that says Gabriel was Thoth. I'm not even going to go there, but all this stuff is here for our learning. It says the earth will give up this stuff so that we can learn. King James, I put it on my feed. You could go down. King James, the translator said, we're against the Pope because they are liars. So any man that comes to you and says King James was a homosexual, King James or Shakespeare wrote the Bible and all this stuff, well, you just take them to the 1611 preface of the Bible and show them that these people were against the Catholic Church. They were against them. We're playing ourselves. So I'm going to question them. I implore you to question them too. I implore even the leaders that even get to watch my videos, from Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. I implore y'all, create committees, create things, get a map, look at where we're not at, and put brothers there, garnish funds, and figure out how we can start setting up schools and food pantries, and look for ways to start farms and grocery stores that can benefit us. Jeremiah tells you in the land of Babylon, build houses, build for yourself. Don't be under the oppressor all your life. People gonna ask me, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm doing what I know to do. What else can I do? I'm one man. I'm one man at a time. I'm one man. I'm here. I'm questioning. I'm asking. How do we get from under the boot of the oppressor with knowing that Christ is not coming back. It's interesting. Revelations tells you, I'm going to leave y'all with this. Revelation tells you that it accursed the man that adds to the book. We don't think stuff was added after 1611. Because we're not reading the Old English. We're reading the New English that we speak in now. So, Jeremiah 10 tells you in the very first verse, don't be dismayed at the heavens, because the heathen are dismayed at those things. But then we're still waiting on Christ to crack the sky. We're waiting on Christ to crack the sky. Corinthians tell you, are ye not the body of Christ? There should be no schism, because the head, the arm says it's not the leg, so it's not part of the body. You don't hear Israel saying that? We're ISUPK. We're the home of the truth. If you ain't with us, you ain't in the truth. You don't hear us saying stuff like that? When I was in the Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ, they were saying stuff like that too. If you ain't here with Ariah and Tazadakia, the God sent comforter, you ain't in the truth. We all say it. We all say it. Remember Paul saying he don't want no division, and he beseeches us all to speak the same thing. So, if you don't believe in the scriptures, cool, do your thing. But I'm talking to Israel that understand what I'm saying. If they're talking about in 2053, there's not going to be any jobs for us, what do? We continue to keep waiting on the skies to crack, even though Jeremiah says not to do that? Or do we say, let me put up my bootstraps and start saying, let's start building our own society, a society within one? Because that's what the Europeans did when they came over here. They had a society within a society, and they all pledged oath to the Pope to change every indigenous person, which is us, into Christians. That's a society within one. They conquered us. I'm not even going to say too much more because they might try to kill me.